An alleged plane crash attempt by an off-duty pilot from the Bay Area is now raising critical questions about the mental health of pilots and the current safety standards set by the FAA. Here's audio from that flight after the frightening episode happened. A crew member speaking to the FAA.
Okay, I'll just give you a heads up. We've got the guy that tried to shut the engines down out of the cockpit, and he doesn't sound like he's causing any issue in the back right now. I think he's subdued.
Thankfully. Well, Joseph Emerson, a Bay Area pilot, is facing 83 attempted murder charges for allegedly trying to shut off a plane's engines as it was heading to SFO. He told investigators he hadn't slept in 40 hours and that he was having a nervous breakdown, and mentioned using psychedelic mushrooms about 48 hours before the incident. So how did this happen, and what can the U.S. do to prevent future incidents? Joining us live to talk more about this is Sean Pruchnicki, a former airline pilot who's now professor of aviation safety at the Ohio State University. By the way, the university does insist on that article, right? Thanks for joining us.
Really, so. Yes, we do.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, Professor Pruchnicki. Does it shock you as a former pilot looking at what happened there?
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, this is definitely a I guess what we could categorize as a one-off. This is extremely rare that something like this would happen, historically speaking.
Right, it is news because we don't see it all the time, thankfully. But how Emerson described his mental state, I'm wondering, how was that not noticed earlier along the way, right? FAA records show he passed a medical exam just last month. Wouldn't that have included a mental health aspect?
Well, the way that pilots are certified for their flight physicals is that they see an aeromedical physician, and it's basically done on the honor system that we answer a long list of questions about numerous types of diseases. And you check boxes yes or no. And if you have any boxes where you check yes, then you need to explain further. So when you get to the section where it talks about psychiatric illnesses or depression or so forth, it's just a matter of checking no to those boxes, and then that would go undiscovered.
I see. I mean, if he had checked yes to taking psychedelics or, medication like that, let's say, assume, we don't know, but let's say he was prescribed that for anxiety or depression, would that be something that would be a red flag where they might say, hey, we're going to hold off on your flying?
Absolutely. That would be immediately grounding. He would not receive his medical that day. And that would be something that would be elevated throughout the FAA aeromedical system to have a much closer look. He would have to produce a lot of documentation that the FAA aeromedical folks would ask for to see if he would still be eligible for an FAA medical. It's quite a lengthy process for something like that.
Could a pilot be cleared to fly with active depression, anxiety, stress levels high?
So there are some allowances for depression, but there's some very tight tolerances associated with that, and some types of medication that can be taken. But again, these are very tight tolerances and, very, very limited. So this is definitely a very rare situation.
So if you had to guess, he probably didn't answer honestly to all the boxes, if you had to guess. I mean, we don't know for sure, right? To get the clearance.
If he received his medical, then he definitely did not check yes to psychiatric problems. That would have immediately grounded him had he checked yes to that box.
Are there reasons that pilots may not want to answer truthfully? That is, are they worried about their jobs? Are they worried about they wouldn't get enough support?
Well, it's a matter of both, right? I mean, there's very much a stigma associated with this. And probably the bigger factor is that if you do report something like this on your medical, then there's a very good chance that you're not going to receive your medical, and you may never receive your medical. So your career could be effectively over at that point. So yeah, there's a huge incentive or disincentive to necessarily be 100% truthful. And I think it's important to understand that, with this being such extreme, pilots that do have, low levels of depression might feel that they're handling this adequately on their own with their counselors, or so forth. And that might also encourage some of those folks to not be truthful. But that could also be said for other questions that are asked on there, like kidney stones and sleep apnea, and
Hmm.
some of the other things that are listed there as well.
Well, this episode has certainly gotten people talking, like, how well do the airlines screen? Should there be any changes in the processes? What do you think? What would be better, safer to the flying public and to the pilots themselves?
I don't think at this point in time that we need to rework the system. I think to do that, there needs to be a demonstrated problem. And I think that just because we had this one event doesn't necessarily indicate that we have a nationwide problem with airline pilots.
Mm.
So I don't think that this one event necessitates that we completely rework the system. And
Mm.
the other thing that I want to add here is that the pilot unions actually have very strong support structures for pilots that have substance abuse problems, alcohol abuse, and certain types of psychiatric disorders that they can go to their unions for help, to help with recovery from those problems. So there are support structures out there within the industry.
Okay. So if I read you right, we have to go, but I just want to offer a little reassurance to our viewers. Overall, you do not feel like it's a nationwide problem or crisis level, more of a one-off. And would you say you feel absolutely safe flying and think travelers should feel good about that?
Absolutely. In fact, myself and my children are getting on an airplane in a couple weeks from now, and I have absolutely no concerns whatsoever, even if there is a jump seater up there.
Right. All right. Thank you very much for your insight, Professor Sean Pruchnicki, former pilot. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.